So like antelope and freshwater drum go bad in a hurry. So if you don't have best practices on your boat or on the shore and you catch a freshwater drum, the meat will be mushy. So I have always caught a fish, either stuck my finger in his gills and popped the gills or cut him with a knife and thrown him in some water and let him bleed out. And then I'll put him on ice since I was like, I don't know, 10 years old. And so if you do that, they're perfectly good. But if you let a drum get warm after it's dead, it will get mushy. I mean, this is the same thing with antelope. People will be like, well, antelope's terrible. Well, usually the way that the traditional antelope hunt is like, okay, the three of us are antelope hunting, right? So Seth shoots his antelope first light, drills it. Then about an hour later, Pat, you shoot one. Perfect. I can't buy an antelope. And it's like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 hours later. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. I finally get my antelope. Okay, now we start gutting all three of them. So mine's fine. Yours are terrible.
Yeah, ours you don't even want to feed to the dog.
But that's, I mean, that's how people traditionally hunt them. Hopefully that's changing, but I've seen that scenario over and over again, and people wonder why they're gross.
Yeah, on our show we've really tried to change that because, like I told you on our introductory calls, like, man, you shoot them in 90-degree heat, right? Like, it's hot, and if you don't get that puppy on ice quick, it just tastes disgusting. It's just super gamey, I guess is what you'd say, but like it just gets this foul taste because it's starting that decomposition. It's getting gross like really quick, and I'm glad you brought that point up about fish too. Like, what are some best practices? Like, if I catch a fish, whether it's a freshwater drum, a walleye, a trout, doesn't matter, what's the best practice that every angler should know if they're going to take them home and eat them?
I think on my tombstone, it's going to say things like, pluck the bird, don't grind the shanks, and bleed the fish.
I like it.
bleed the fish. Like, number 1, bleed the fish. Number 2, bleed the fish. Like, it's not hard. If with small fish, use your fingers. With bigger fish, use a knife. For those of you out there in grouper land, do not try to pop your grouper's gills with your fingers. You'll lose your finger. Tin snips are really good if you catch really large fish. But for the freshwater world, by and large, your fingers are fine. They have to bleed into water. You can't pop gills and put them on something. They won't bleed out. I mean, a little bit, but not really. So if freshwater, you put them in a bucket of freshwater, or you put them on a stringer in freshwater. Watch out for the turtles. Yeah. And if you're in saltwater, you do the same thing. You either put them in saltwater or you put them on a stringer. Watch out for the seals. So that's number 1. Number 2 is have ice on the boat. Ice is your friend until it's not. The exception to ice is your friend is ice fishermen. So ice fishermen have this bad habit of like, I caught this. I'm up there by the thing, and I caught these crappie, and they threw these crappie out on the ice, and they're frozen solid. Well, duh, right? They're frozen solid, and then now you have to thaw them to fillet them, and then that's fine if you don't freeze them again. But then if you freeze them a second time and then you thaw them a second time, you're like, why are they all watery and mushy? Well, that's why.
Yeah.
So that's a terrible idea. Like, if you're catching more fish on the ice than you think you can catch before you have to freeze them, don't let them freeze that first time. It's not that hard. You're in an ice shack, and if you're not in an ice shack, you should be in an ice shack.